Welcome into the latest episode of Betting the Pitch MLB edition. I'm your host, the real underscore D Warner, joined as always back by at A Brooks Bets. Already can't even talk to start off this episode, but that's what happens when you come in off an 0-2 weekend or midweek, I guess, because this is a Tuesday night episode we do for the Wednesday card every week. You should know that by now. The most grueling of all betting seasons. We are still with you at A Brooks Bets, 8-3 his last 11 best bets. We're trying to turn around our momentum a little bit, though we are in those dog days of summer. I think some minds are switching towards or moving towards the football stage, whether it's American or European, or maybe we're sticking with baseball. We are still recording these podcasts. There's still money to be made. Incredible Red Sox game today. I'm not sure if you caught it at A Brooks Bets. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm actually kind of like over the dog days, believe it or not. I feel like the baseball is starting to get a little more competitive. I don't know. My kind of like my little red flags and antennas are going up when I see certain things. I'm starting to see some pretenders and some contenders, even though, you've got a lot of teams technically still in there.
Yep.
There's some that don't really impress me, and I'm sure we'll get into it.
We certainly will. We're gonna go through each game on this card. We'll have best bets end of show cut into an Instagram reel at the real underscore G Warner and on YouTube as well at the same platform. If you could leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, it'd be huge for the search rankings. And I'm gonna thank some recent YouTube subscribers. And of course, we'll get to that later in the show. We'll start and totally agree with you, the pretenders and such. We'll probably get to a bunch of those when we go through the games. And I'll try to work that in a little bit on this episode, the August 14th edition of a Major League Baseball podcast and the Betting Pitch Podcast Network. We'll start with the Colorado Rockies, and they have Tom Gordon, just kidding, Tanner Gordon. There's always a Tanner, it seems, whenever it's a T. He's on the road at Arizona for Jordan Montgomery. Currently, Montgomery minus 210 favorite. Pretty big price. Over under is 9, juiced all the way to over. So we might see 9.5 before first pitch is thrown. Getaway day game. Sometimes tough for overs, but Jordan Montgomery, the pretty good start last time out against the Phillies, and then the bullpen gave it up. But Arizona's been flying, winning, I think, 21 of the last 27 games or something crazy like that. What do we think about Jordan Montgomery? Is he a guy you can potentially stomach at over a $2 price?
I don't think so. Spoiler alert. I'll get into why. He has been, boy, you talk about like I think it's $21 million. You got to be the worst return. I mean, I know he was okay, I guess, and obviously he took the Rangers pretty deep in the postseason and performed pretty well. So hopefully he can do that for the Diamondbacks, who are looking up. They're just as hot as anybody. Them and the Padres both are streaking. They're making that NL West a race.
Yep.
It shows our age where we both assumed Tom Gordon. It's not another Flash. It's Tanner. This is the new official T should be Tanner for these young guys coming in. But I'm actually
Yeah.
kind of impressed with him. Um, it's hard to really know when you're a Rockies pitcher, but he's got some stuff. He doesn't walk too many guys, and he strikes out or gets a lot of chase rate. So like, I like what I'm seeing there, especially in the humidor. I know a lot of people don't make anything of Arizona anymore being a huge hitter-friendly park like it kind of used to be before the humidor days. But
Yep.
I like the Rockies here at this price. I mean, I'm seeing a lot of kind of upsets lately. I'm seeing a lot of managers trying different things. I know the Diamondbacks are right in it, and like you said, they've been streaking, they've been hot. But at this price, I'm not willing to take Montgomery. I just don't really believe it. He's had a very rough season, and I expect that to maybe continue. I'm looking to maybe fade him here.
Yeah, Arizona, I don't think there's anything you can poke holes at. They did struggle a little bit on Monday night with the Rockies, but ended up coming back to win. Ketel Marte left after his first at bat after missing a couple games this weekend. So maybe some injury bugs are potentially biting. I think Lourdes Cordial also left Monday, but started Tuesday. I think the ways, if you're looking for a Rockies play here, I agree. Arizona just can't be back to this price with Montgomery, who's just as likely to go 6 innings shutout like he did against the Phillies as 3 innings and 6 earned runs, it seems. Maybe not a shutout, but he had a good outing against Philadelphia, I remember specifically. I nearly backed Tanner Gordon on Friday, I think it was, at home against Atlanta. A lot of it I kind of laid off because I was worried it was a reaction just to having a good start against the Padres, and maybe he fell into some luck in that one because I did not watch it. But Colorado, I mean, they've been pretty feisty. I feel like we saw the trade deadline sales, and I feel like that usually knocks teams down for a couple of weeks. But I feel like all these teams that have been promoting younger players, they pretty much they sell a lot of players and they kind of are crestfallen for a little while, but then they come back. So I agree with you. I think the Rockies, it's really hard to back them away from Denver. But maybe you look at run line plus 1.5, potentially lose by a single run, cover that. Or maybe if you want to back the Rockies in some sort of kind of related way, you play over 9 runs, just expecting Jordan Montgomery to not hit to get hit, or Arizona potentially to score a bunch of runs themselves. I think 2 wild pitches back to back and end up winning their Monday night game. So I feel like Arizona's been great. Would you call them a pretender or a potential World Series candidate?
They're closer to the contender side than the pretender side, I think. I'm not totally sold that they're going to strike lightning in a bottle again, but they have kind of kept it up last 2 or 3 weeks. They've been really hot, making it a race. Like I said, I don't know if they'll get very many home games in the postseason, but we'll see. Yeah, I wouldn't write them off just yet. They're not one of the pretenders I've been kind of identifying.
Got it. Yeah, I'm really into Arizona at this point, I gotta
Yeah.
say. I don't want to buy in because it's easy to say because they made a run to the World Series last year as a wild card that that'll happen again. I feel like I would
Right.
rather have uncharted territory than charted, clearly. But I think that Arizona bullpen is very long. I think they're one of the best lineups in baseball right now in terms of length as well. They don't have the big names, so that makes them a good value. I mean, underdogs a lot of that series with Philadelphia last weekend. I don't know how they pitch to get too far in this tournament, but when it becomes a tournament, but it didn't seem to matter last year either. So we'll move on now to the Pittsburgh Pirates and Mitch Keller visiting San Diego and those Padres, who another really, really hot team, maybe just play an NL West future to win the World Series because you get most likely the Padres, D-backs, and the Dodgers, who have been smoking Milwaukee this week. But Mitch Keller, speaking of getting smoked, was hit very hard at the Dodgers last Friday night. He's a plus 120 underdog. Martin Perez, a minus 130 favorite for San Diego. Over under is 8, slightly juiced to over. You think Pittsburgh's one of those teams that you put a fork in them already?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they've lost 7 in a row coming into this. I mean, they're not they didn't really sell too bad at the deadline or anything, but they're not gonna really make a
Well,
big run.
they
They're kind of
technically bought because they did bring in
right,
the homophobe Jalen Beeks in.
right.
So
They've
that's
got a rotation that that's formidable maybe for next year or certainly years down the road. I think Mitch Keller's been okay. He's been a little above average this year, and I think that's probably what you might get here. And then Martin Perez has been terrible. I'm just not a believer of him. I know he had that one renaissance season several years ago, 3 years ago now, maybe two
yeah.
years ago. But I'm just not seeing it. I don't even see how he's an addition from the Pirates to the Padres. Was that trade deadline move? It just doesn't make that much sense to me to be trotting this guy out there. But maybe again, lightning in a bottle is what they're kind of hoping, and getting some innings to get him in the postseason. And a lefty arm probably always has some value as you get down to the matchup season and you get down to all these outs being really important and you get closer to the promised land. But I like this. I like this Pirates price a little bit, to be honest. I know it's San Diego at home and it seems a little bit short at minus 130 because they've been so hot. But I feel like kind of Vegas is getting a read on that. And I don't think Perez is very good. I think Keller has the pitching advantage in this one. But, the Padres have the team advantage. So whichever way you go here, be careful. But I would lean Pittsburgh at this price.
Yeah, I feel you. I think I'm interested in Keller in a bounce back. I think he's really proven to me that he's been very solid. The Pirates, not all him, of course, but they've won a lot of his starts this season. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I want to say it was like 16 out of 22 starts heading into that Friday night start in Los Angeles. Probably the hardest place to go keep that streak going. But Perez, I mean, feels like he's just eating outs at this point and trying to keep a San Diego Padres rotation as healthy as possible because they weren't sure when they'd get Joe Musgrove back, who just returned for a Monday night start this week. And Perez did pitch out of the bullpen for the Red Sox, so maybe that's an option as well coming down the line, though that Padres bullpen is great. I feel like if you're looking at Pirates, you probably want to play first 5 because I don't think you want to deal with their bullpen right now with Bednar struggles, Holderman placed on the IL just because he sucked lately. And I feel like San Diego's been really, really good in the bullpen as well. Moving next to Washington Nationals and DJ Hers visiting Baltimore Orioles and Dean Kramer. Dean Kramer minus 170 favorite at home. Pretty big, but ultimately when the Nationals are in town, considering what they've sold off this season, over under is 9, just a little bit more to over. Hers off a really short start, dealing with rain and maybe ineffectiveness anyway in the rain, maybe caused by rain, but it seems like he's at least a year away from being a trustworthy starter. What do we think about the Orioles? Are you concerned about them at all? Maybe more so than just this game because it seems kind of like a snooze.
Yeah, I don't think I'm really concerned about the Orioles long term. Kramer is not really going to find himself into too many high leverage starts. I don't think he's not their 1, 2, or 3 really in Baltimore. He's been average this year at best. DJ Hers, like you said, he's got the stuff, but he doesn't have the polish yet of a big league player. The Nationals, again, so, we talked about the first three. We got a plus 190, a plus 120, and a plus 156 price on the first three we've talked about. If you want to go dog like here, I'm kind of leaning, you only need 1.5 of those to you really, to break even.
Sure.
One really, depending on kind of which one hits. So I'm gonna lean the road dog here again. I just think that hers might perform great. He's got a start in him where he's going to go like 5 innings and strike out 10 and be pretty good. Again, you get in the kind of the bullpen situation. The Nationals were certainly sellers and the Orioles were certainly buyers. So
Yep.
it's hard to say. These teams are kind of, even though they're 30 minutes apart, 45 minutes apart, they're kind of going in 2 different directions. But I'm not concerned about the Orioles long term. But for this one, I might lean Nationals again at this big price for dogs.
Yeah, I think they're still sharing TV revenue for Masson, or maybe the Orioles are just taking it away from the Nationals based on that contract way back when. Hers, I think, has the stuff, you're right, but no polish. That's very well put. I am concerned about the Orioles. I feel like they did buy their bullpen seems really bad to me, though, compared to especially what they're going to be seeing in the playoffs. Their bullpen against the rest. I mean, the Yankees aren't that much better. I don't think we'll get to them in a little bit, but I feel like there's a lot of teams like the Astros that, I mean, there's some issues with Ryan Presser right now, I think, in Houston, but Brian Abreu to Josh Hader, I don't know how you can do better than that. And to me, it seems that the Astros struggles to start the season seem very interesting in the playoffs, but that'll come up later. Move next to Miami Marlins and Edwin Cabrera on the road at the Philadelphia Phillies and Tyler Phillips. I don't really know what to make of Phillips at this point, but he's a minus 180 favorite. Has pitched well at home, but got bombed in Seattle and I guess bounced back, but still didn't look great to me in Los Angeles. I mean, I guess pretty hard to go from the Mariners in their charge, though not really a lineup you fear too much. And then to the Dodgers, who hit him hard, but somehow he hung around long enough to get maybe even a win for himself, definitely for the Phillies in his last start. But total here is 9, just a little bit more to over. Cabrera's been really good lately, but he pitches for the Marlins.
Yeah, that concerns me. The Marlins are a concern. They're a team that doesn't really want to win, and they haven't since April, when they traded their best players. So the Phillies are the real deal. Again, Phillips is not, he's not Suarez, and he's not some of the Wheeler. He's not some of the frontline guys that Philly can throw at you. But this one's, maybe the same idea as the last 3, right? You take a big price on an underdog, then you win 2 out of 4 of these last 4 we've talked about, and you're way up.
You're
Right?
definitely
So
profitable.
I think I'd probably go that way and stick with the underdog play here just early on, and see how that goes as kind of as a system play. But this game in a bottle, obviously the Phillies should win it. But if you're kind of going just with the price that Vegas gives you, plus 165 looks pretty good to me again.
Concerns about the Phillies lately, or is it just a lull
Well,
in their
Schwarber's been
dominant
on
season?
fire, and he can like carry a team, and I think they've got the guys to do it. They've got the pedigrees and everything. I don't see long-term real concerns. I mean, again, you're going to get into a series where it's the best 2 out of 3, and you never know what's going to happen. But with that front line starting pitching of the Phillies, no, I'm not really that concerned long-term.
Yeah, I'm just disappointed we're not going to be able to get Zach Wheeler as a home underdog to the Braves in the playoffs. I don't think those days were
Yeah.
very profitable, and I miss them a lot because I feel like they kept repeating themselves year after year. Moving next to St. Louis Cardinals and Kyle Gibson on the road at Carson Spires for the Cincinnati Reds. Gibson a slight favorite on the road, minus 109 to a minus 101 right now at Carson Spires. If you're not a member of BetOnline or Sportsbetting.ag, go check out those lines, those numbers. You're not seeing 10 cents spreads or in those any type of money line situation like that across most sports books throughout. There are links in the podcast description on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and on YouTube. Get some free money for signing up at those casinos. But total here is 9.5. Very heavily juiced under. Maybe we see this fall to 9. Not a getaway day. It looks like a normal 5:40 p.m. since the days of 7 o'clock Eastern time are done. 5:40 Central, so 6:40. What a weird time to start a game, in my humble opinion. Um, but it seems like St. Louis is hanging around. Are they one of those pretenders you were alluding to?
Yeah, I've thought that all year. If you listen to this podcast all year, I don't think the Cardinals really did that much as the deadline to like Eric Fetty might be their best
Woo!
acquisition, and we both haven't
Big
been
spenders.
yeah, we both haven't been super high on him. Although I think he performed decently over the last week. I know he had a pitching duel earlier on. I forgot he was up against, but
I think the Rays, if I remember
yeah,
correctly. Yeah.
yeah. The I don't know. Spires is not inspiring necessarily.
Ah,
The over 9.5. I'd lean over in all these games, and maybe if you can talk me through these totals too, because we do want to get on the right track when it comes to best bets, and might have to go to the total side. That way, you can kind of win two different ways. Even if your side isn't coming through, maybe something weird happens and you win the total no matter what. But I'd lean over in all these, and maybe it's because I feel like hitters that get called up and hitters that are hitting now aren't really like running out of juice yet. Like pitchers are handled so differently now that the ones who there aren't really pitchers called up now who they expect to contribute and win games. It's like they're either getting shut down and ready for next year because their team's not competitive. Like Paul Skeens, for instance. Like, why would you pitch him anymore? If you're gonna be out of it, like dude is your future. If it's not competitive innings, if it's not innings that might get you closer to a World Series. I realize that not all teams are trying to win the World Series. Pittsburgh might be one of them, but we come back to this game in the Reds. It's just like we're getting to where obviously that ballpark flies, the ball flies there. It's kind of hot and humid everywhere in the country now, and this dog days, like you said, in August. I like young hitters this time of year better than young pitchers.
yep.
And I think a lot of teams are kind of floating out their younger guys if they're not trying to win. So to that end, I would lean overs just kind of down the stretch. We'll see how that plays out. In this game, I would kind of lean over 9.5. And I actually like, again, just because of the price, I like the Reds as a very slight home underdog here. I mean, you're just getting minus 101, so it's about a pick 'em. But I'd lean Reds here. You know how I feel about Ellie. And
I
I noticed
do.
you shared a stat with me last week where he is one of the 5 best shortstops, young shortstops under 24 years old, and that's pretty clear. But he's not an average defender. He seems to be below average defender at short. So I don't know what they do with him long term there. He throws it 105 miles an hour from the left side of the diamond. Maybe there's some center field, maybe there's some right field, maybe there's something like that they can entertain later on down. But he's got the wheels, obviously, that I'd like to see be a little, I'm interested to see what his range is and all that stuff. I have to dive deeper into that. But Ellie can get hot and go 4 for 4 with 4 stolen bases, and it's fun to watch. But I'll lean Reds here.
Yeah, he doesn't have enough help around him, I think. It seems like
Yeah,
Ellie De La Cruz,
Spencer Steer's been performing well lately, but that's kind of about it. Yeah,
he's had a good year, but we're trying to fill. I mean, I think Tyler Stevenson, the catcher, has been good as well. It's just like, unfortunately, it feels like Ellie needs 2 home runs a night to win games to the
right.
Reds. Their bullpens got decimated at the trade deadline, kept their 8th and 9th inning guys, which is I think a good thing. But I'm just looking at who they start, and I just like their starting pitchers. I'm very,
Yeah.
very rarely interested, usually underwhelmed with who they're throwing out there. Kyle Gibson's hard to predict. I feel like as a road favorite, that's a way I'd want to go against him as well. I like him as a big underdog, honestly, because I think he's great when the expectations are low. But I feel like St. Louis is in this weird void where I just want to bet against them as much as possible until they're like officially dead. But it's going to be a while because there's unfortunately so many games left in the season. I think, as you mentioned, pitchers are kind of running out of bullets. The tread is off the tires at this point. A lot of bald tires running around at this point, I think, on the Major League
Right. That's
Baseball
right.
diamonds. We move next to Seattle Mariners and Brian Wu at a bullpen game for the Detroit Tigers. Bo Brisky looks like he'll start, but I would imagine you need to look at the listed pitchers option if you have that at your sports book, because I don't think it might be a little bit of Kenta Maeda. Who knows? Brian Wu somehow has pitched through multiple arm injuries this season, but still kind of going. Um, Mariners had a really sloppy game tonight. George Kirby was not good, but also their defense was horrific. Kicking balls left and right. I don't know if they were really celebrating their first Sunday Night Baseball win and a sweep of the New York Mets. But they are, I mean, it's tough to gain ground on the Astros and Astros win every single night. Wu minus 138 favorite on the road at Detroit, who should have swept the Mariners in Seattle last week, if not for a really bad misplay on game 3 after winning the first 2 from a Tigers like fill-in right fielder because they sold everything that wasn't nailed down besides Tarek Skubal. Over under here is 8. Juice more to the over. Just close your eyes and hit over buttons.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm leaning in this one. I'd lean over for sure. But, and you could get a Seattle, a nice performance from Seattle, and you win. You could get the Tigers staying around and being pesky. I mean, that's what they were tonight. And
That's what they have been. I mean,
that's what
I
they
feel
have
like
been.
one of those
Yeah.
teams that we talked about earlier sold, traded a ton of stuff, like had the initial, okay, I guess we're not trying to go for it. We're not going to make the playoffs. And they were kind of dwindling, falling out of the picture anyway. But like none of these teams are
Yeah.
that bad. I mean, besides the White Sox. And I feel like maybe Marlins too, but like the Tigers are still playing. AJ Hinch, say what you want about the buzzer gate or whatever, or the trash cans, banging trash cans. I feel like he's a quality manager, and that's more than you can say for a lot of teams in Major League Baseball. Scott Servais has been pretty good for Seattle. I think Brian Wu is, I mean, a good pitcher, but also got hit fairly hard in his last start. So kind of out of nowhere. So to me, I feel like the Tigers money line is where I'd be looking at this one. We'll move next to the Chicago Cubs and Jameson Taillon at Cleveland Guardians and Alex Cobb. I did not catch Cobb's first start, but he returned, debuted, I guess, for the Guardians. Got traded, I think, from San Francisco at the deadline, and then came off the IL to make his first start against the Minnesota Twins in a loss in a doubleheader as the Guardians were swept that day. However, they've been playing pretty well since then. Taillon is not going to walk any pitchers or walk any batters. Also struggling. I think it's Taillon. I think that's how he wants to pronounce it. Could be Taillon. That would be the Italian way to do it, but anyway, we're in America, so who the heck knows? But anyway, Cobb minus 125 favorite at home. Over under is 8.5. You just split both ways, so no real tell where this total will go. We saw a wild one Monday a lot because the Guardians bullpen was gassed, but they did use Clase 3 days in a row. Do you give the Cubs a chance here? Because I feel like they've been getting a lot of respect this series, including Shota Imanaga closing a favorite on Monday night at Cleveland.
Yeah. We talk about pictures with the treads falling off. Class A is not one of them. He's
No.
getting close to Cy Young territory. You talk about the Cy Young candidates in the AL. George Kirby got blasted tonight. Seth Lugo got blasted the other day. Skubal is still kind of the favorite there, probably for Detroit. Had a pretty good start. But Class A, he's perfect on the year. The Guardians haven't lost a game going into the ninth inning in 73 games in a row. All right. So, like, their bullpen is legit, obviously. I don't mean to spoil anything, but 4 nights in a row, they've viewed Class A now. So, I imagine he's unavailable for this one, but
Uh-huh.
I think their bullpen is fine even without him. He's been obviously incredible with an ERA well below 1. But I I tend to think he's probably not going to pitch again. He's pitched 4 times, but in a row. So I might want to try to lean Cubs here. Alex Cobb has been around for a long time, and I think he was hurt first half of this year, but
Yep.
so I can't really trust him. Taillon has been a little bit average, a little above average, like you said. He doesn't really walk guys, so that'll keep you in some games. If you do give up home runs, they're not to a bunch of multi, 3-run homers, grand slams, that kind of thing. And the Guardians don't hit the ball all that hard. Although I did look up that Lane Thomas and There's another guy too. I
John
forgot who.
Kenzie Noel.
They blasted Tyone in their career. So there's
Okay.
something to look there if you want to look at some weird player props there. I'd like Lane Thomas to maybe go deeper or over 2.5 total bases or whatever your
One
book
and a half usually
might
standard.
give
I
you.
think, yeah, maybe break out
One
of
and a
his
half,
mini
yeah.
slump. Hasn't really been super hot since getting over to Cleveland, but they were talking about it. The Cleveland broadcast was like, oh, the pressure of being traded and blah, 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 having to figure out where you're living, blah, blah, blah. I think it's just one of those little ruts. But yes, Class A has been awesome. That'd be an interesting dart throw on a Cy Young Award winner if suddenly he finishes the year with like the best ERA of all time. Doesn't seem impossible. I mean,
Right.
hilarious. Good old trade by the Texas Rangers, former staff. You know what they got in the deal for Emmanuel Clase?
I don't.
Corey Kluber, and I don't even think he pitched the whole season.
Mm.
Good work. Good work, John Daniels, I believe
The
it was.
Guardians would do that one again.
I twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
Might even guard the way all the way into the city. We'll move next to the Houston Astros. Ronel Blanco at Tampa Bay Rays. Zach Littell. Astros never lose, it seems. They're underdogs, I think. Every first two games of the Red Sox series, pretty big favorites on Sunday. And then won the first two as favorites in Tampa. Same old story here. Minus 121 Ronel Blanco. Total is 7.5. Juice all the way to over. Probably see 8 before first pitch. See any reason to try to jump in there with Zach Littell and take that underdog at home?
In this one, I don't really see it. I do see Ronel Blanco maybe being that guy with the bald tires. Like he's a rookie pitcher. He might not have the same kind of effectiveness down the stretch as he did earlier on. Obviously, he threw a no-hitter earlier this season. The Astros have Yordan Alvarez scorching hot. They've got Alex Bregman who's scorching hot. They've got the guys. They've got the posting experience. They can smell it. I could just tell their locker room is like, all right, we're in this. We're going to win the division. We're going to be right where we were. And nobody really would have said that the first 3 months of the season. Like they struggled for definitely 2 months, maybe three. And then they just kind of turned it on. And that's what good teams do. That's what the Warriors do. That's what Steph Curry does and USA basketball did. I
You
mean,
saw
like
it with the Chiefs for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Chiefs do it. Like great teams with winning pedigrees. That's what they do. The fans kind of expect it. Everybody expects them to win. That's that locker room culture that you can't really put down on as a number on the paper. But the Astros expect to win games like this. They're at Tampa. They probably have more Houston fans than Tampa fans. They're still only getting 10,000 people max at any game like this. So I like the Astros at this short price. I mean, I think this is about as short as you might get them. Minus 121 doesn't seem bad for a guy who's pitched obviously very well. We'll see how much he has left. And I'm willing to bet on him. I'm willing to bet on the Astros in this one, minus 120.
Yeah, I think Blanco's got one of the best like strand rates or batting average against the runners in scoring position. At this point in the season, I feel like you trust that rather than expecting it to like all of a sudden come crashing down to the mean. He's been great. Littell, I feel like it's just really hard to predict. He has some really great starts in him, but they do seem to come against the weaker teams. Was very good against the Reds a few weeks ago at home, got bombed in the Bronx when the Yankees weren't hitting. Not really sure what to predict there. And I just don't feel like you really want to fade the Astros because if you look for like chinks in the armor, I don't know where you find them. It probably is Ronel Blanco, but if he delivers a good start and the Astros get a lead, yes, the Rays are a great bullpen, but they're used to having a huge advantage there, and they don't have it here. We'll
Yeah.
move next to the Oakland Athletics and Joey Estes on the road at the New York Mets and David Peterson. Looks like Peterson and the Mets minus 180 favorite, which feels enormous until you think about the favorites that the Toronto Blue Jays last place were to the Oakland Athletics just this past weekend. Total's 8.5 here, just more to the over. Peterson certainly has some talent, arm talent. I think probably more than Estes does. Estes seems to be a fastball guy, and that can be pretty tough against the New York Mets lineup that's really great at slugging.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with the Mets. I think they're a pretender. I don't think that they're gonna.
Okay.
I don't.
Why do we think the Mets are a pretender?
Well, throwing guys like David Peterson might be the reason. Number one, he's not inspiring to me. He's not a guy that I want on my postseason ball club, really
Yep.
pitching meaningful innings. Now you're at home against the A's. Obviously, you're going to try to hide him here in the spot, and you're going to maybe beat the Athletics because they're not very good. But the Athletics are one of those sneaky teams too. They've got these young guys. They've got Lawrence Butler's been hitting, and Langeliers, their catcher, has been slugging. He slugged today. I mean, like they've got some guys. Rooker, he's been good this year. So I'd lean over here again. like you said, the Mets do kind of hit fastballs pretty well. Estes is not somebody I'm looking like buy necessarily down the stretch, but you know, when you get these prices like plus 165, again, you don't have to win half the games and you still win money.
Yeah, Shane Bangaliers with 2 home runs with at A Brooks Bets and at the real underscore G Warner in the house earlier this season. And somehow we didn't even realize it until after the game ended.
Yeah.
LOL. That's what happens when you're trying to get beers, I guess, while the A's are batting, not expecting them to be the swinging A's that they've turned into. 3 games left in this card. We'll get to best bets and get out of here. The Dodgers and Walker Bueller's return on the road at Milwaukee, trying to keep, I guess, maybe even go for a series sweep here. Bueller, a minus 132 favorite away from home. Total is 9. Juices split both ways. Montas had, I think, an 8-0 lead and only made it through 4 innings at Atlanta. Close your eyes and hit over.
Boy, you start the game out with Otani, Betts, and Freeman. I don't know how it gets any better than that. I don't know if it's
They're
ever gotten
back.
any better than that. I
They're
mean,
back.
it's crazy. And then you think that Otani's going to pitch sometime next year. Obviously, not this year, probably, but I mean, God, the Dodgers they've been bitten so hard by the injury bug. Like you said, they kind of mess around with the IL because they're so deep and they have so many guys. But Bueller was once their young ace, and obviously he's kind of coming back. I don't really want to buy him also in this spot, but Montes doesn't really do it for me either. He's been average or below average this year. He came over from Cincinnati at the deadline. I don't think he's like a huge plus upgrade. They're just kind of looking for those change of scenery guys, and hopefully they catch some fire down the stretch. Montas was once a highly regarded prospect himself. So
Mm.
the
Might have been the
Brewers
steroids that time,
as
though.
a road dog is kind of scary, but I look at that lineup: Otani, Betts, and Freeman, and then I don't really care what you back it up with. Honestly, I mean those guys are so hard to get out, and they create so much chaos from the very jump. I do want to lean over here, and I want to lean the Dodgers actually as the road favorite.
Yeah, I think Bueller's. I'm very curious to see what he puts up. I think Montas gets hit. I like over 9 in that one. Might have been the steroids that made Frankie Montas look good. Plus, he also got interviewed when he got traded over to Milwaukee from Cincinnati and said, "Oh, I didn't even expect to do it. I was having a bad season." Move next to the Toronto Blue Jays and Jose Berrios on the road at the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, starting maybe the hottest pitcher in baseball, Tyler Anderson. Somehow didn't expect to be saying that in year of our Lord 2024. But the Angels are minus 109, slight home favorite, totals 8.5, just a little bit more to over. This line feels a lot like when Dan Daniel was starting on Monday night. Barrios off a good start against Oakland, but hard to project what he's going to do. You buy in Tyler Anderson and his multiple karate kicks and his motion?
Yeah, so I was looking into that. He only throws an 89-mile-an-hour fastball, and it's not been all that effective, but he has the number one changeup in the league in terms of effectiveness. So this dude keeps hitters off balance. He's throwing kind of junk, for lack of a better word. He's I'm looking into it. Some guys who can locate that changeup, I feel like that's not as much arm stress as curveballs and power sliders and things like that. I
Yep.
like the consistency there of that. So I think that's why he's kind of putting together a good season and having this little hot stretch. I can kind of see where it comes from. So I do like the Angels here. I've been fading the Blue Jays all day long. I know the Angels are favored here. They're at home. They're not going to be favored very often down the stretch, but with Trout out the rest of the year, that's kind of a sad story there. Let's go Angels though. Let's have them win this game as a pick 'em price, pretty much.
Yeah, I keep wearing Blue Jays jerseys on purpose on this podcast just to remind
Okay.
everyone that Abrams Bets had them finishing at the bottom 3 teams in the Major League Baseball, which it looked like it was going that way, but maybe their youth has actually improved them a little bit. I don't think it's enough. I like the Angels here as well. Last game in our card before we get to our best bets. We'll start with the Atlanta Braves and Grant Holmes on the road at Robbie Ray and the San Francisco Giants. Giants a slight minus 107, favorite minus 103 in the Braves right now. Total is 8. Juiced more to the under than to the over. We saw quite a pitcher's duel on Monday night that looked like there would never be a run scored until a Manfred man appeared at second base in the 10th inning. Big series for that wild card. The Braves had fallen out of the wild card position for the first time in like what felt like 5 years or so since they were the really bad Braves. And then once Acuna showed up, Grant Holmes, journeyman, but has some swing and miss to him. And that's exactly how I would describe Robbie Ray. So is this one of those you might see a little bit less scoring or lower scoring of a game?
Yeah, I like Robbie Ray here. Um, the guy has some stuff. He's obviously had a few starts now since he came back mid-year. Um, he's pitching in a great place for it. The Braves are a long way from home. I like the Giants here in this spot at a pick'em price, pretty much -107.
Yep.
You're not having to give up too much juice to pick the Giants and Robbie Ray here. I would maybe lean under two in this one. I guess it's the ballpark. I guess it's the kind of two teams. I know the Braves offense has struggled at times. Matt Olson seems to be maybe heating up, but
Yep.
with no Acuna there, they really miss him and his spark. I think that the Giants might be worth betting here.
I like the Giants. I think I like under too. Those are correlated. Probably play both like I did on Monday night, and unfortunately, rough split, but not too much and very close to +2 units on a play that seemed like it was very close and going to be an elevator to literally till the end. Feels like Granholm's getting a little bit more respect than I was almost expecting here after seeing Snell close at -110, 11 or so to Chris Sale, who's been probably the best pitcher in baseball. But that'll do it for this Tuesday night episode for the Wednesday, August 14th baseball card. But hang on, it's time for our best bets. Before you get into that, please follow us on the various socials at @the_real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, and Twitter. And of course, if you want to get our 1-minute reels, that's where you got to go at @the_real_G Warner on YouTube and on Instagram. At Abrooks Bets, you want to start us off with your best bet, and I'll close this out.
My best bet is the Los Angeles Dodgers and Milwaukee Brewers over 9. I love the offense. Mookie Betts coming back is a huge deal. I mean, you think the Dodgers were good before. They add one of the best players in baseball to that lineup. They go left, right from the jump, and they hurt you. This is one of those offenses, one of those teams that no matter the ups and downs throughout the year, here they are. They're right here. It's all in front of them. Walker Buehler, though, on the other side, pitching for them, I can't really trust him yet. So I expect the Brewers to maybe get to him a little early. This one could be, you might want to go over in the first 5 if you're going to want to fade if you want to get those 2 at bats from the first great 3 hitters of the Dodgers, and then and you're going to be sitting pretty, I think, early in this one. So I'm going to go over 9. Dodgers Brewers.
Sitting as pretty as my phone was before gravity took hold. So that'll be a good play. Just want to get a couple things in before we close this out because we're about to run into time. Want to thank our new YouTube subscribers, Nick Strepo, JC Truth. Appreciate you all coming on, and hopefully you're enjoying the 1-minute videos that I try to make as interesting as possible, and then usually run out of time and just throw it all together last minute. So it's time for the best bets. So let's get into it. This is the @real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. This is the ultimate best bet. The takeaways for our Major League Baseball episode with that Brooks Bets. He's 8-3 in his last 11 best bets, and we're trying to keep that momentum going throughout the rest of the season. This is the Tuesday night card recorded for Wednesday, August 14th. Baseball, extravaganza. A lot of day games, a lot of night games. At Brooks Bets just let us off with the over 9 runs in Milwaukee for the Los Angeles Dodgers and Milwaukee Brewers. I'm fully on board with that. Expect to bet that tonight. For my best bet, at @the_real_G Warner on Instagram, Patreon, Twitter, and on YouTube. If you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out. Patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, lead right up across all sports: baseball, soccer, football, American version, all that sort of stuff. Futures coming out and are already out and available. Go check that out. But for my best bet, I'm going to go with the Cleveland Guardians -125 at home. Let's see Emmanuel Clase for a 5th straight day. And that'll do it for this episode. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you all next time, and keep winning.